Hi, good evening. My name is Radha Mishra. I am the Director of College Counseling at the Hunt School of Princeton. Thank you all for being here. I hope all of you are well and taking good care of yourself and your loved ones. Nothing is more important than your physical and good mental health. Actually, can somebody tell me if you can hear me?
Yes, Radha, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Evelyn, because I'm getting some chats that say they can't. So thank you all again for being here. Welcome to our panelists. I cannot see you on the screen as yet, but welcome to all of you. So very quickly, why this webinar? Even under normal circumstances, the college counseling process is tricky. There's so much noise around it, but these are unprecedented times. So as we've been talking with our parents, both juniors and seniors, families, we've realized that they have many questions, particularly around what's happening now. So we thought we'd have a webinar where we've got the best panelists, all four of you. We know who you, all of you know Hunt so well. And parents and students and everybody who's attending the webinar, these are the real experts in the field. So we'd like to welcome them. And remember, even though our panelists and they will introduce themselves later, even though they might be representing their institution, my experience has been with them, what they say often is a good reflection on what's happening on the landscape of higher education. So I'm glad that we've got the panelists to dispel many of the myths that sometimes surround us about college counseling and the college process. That's the first thing I wanted to say about the panel and why we have them here. The second thing is to assure all of you who are attending the webinar, parents and students, that college counseling at the Hunt School is totally up and running. It's almost as if things are normal in terms of us meeting the students and the parents. It's just that now we are doing it virtually. And for those of you, parents and students who might not be aware, we in college counseling are going to be available to you through the summer. So there's no rush whatsoever. And I hope that all of you at any given point in time, feel free that you can reach out to the college counseling office, to your own college counselor at any given time. So do not ever hesitate for that. In fact, as I'm speaking with you, I'm thinking that typically what would have been happening around this time in April and May, it's actually still happening. It's just happening virtually. For example, in April, we would have had the students ask the teachers, request the teachers for their recommendations. As many of you know, that's happening now. In May, we would have started the common application process, and that's going to start in May. Certainly in April, the big college fair that happens, where I would have seen all four of our panelists in person, that was canceled. But as you know, we have shared many virtual resources with you, where you can go visit campuses, various campuses virtually. So please take advantage of that and visit campuses virtually. Finally, and I don't want to forget about our international students and families, given the time and the time zone differences, many of you might not be able to be here. Do not fret at all. This is being recorded, and then we're going to share the recording with all you families. And in fact, many of the international students have reached out to us with some questions, which our moderator, Greg Murray, will be asking the panelists. So welcome all of you. Just listen to the panelists. They are the experts. Hopefully this will help you with the process as it moves forward. And also, I hope that it will reignite some of the excitement about the college application process. Sometimes in our worries, we forget how exciting this process can be and how much a student grows during the process. So students, listen up. We've got a lot of other stuff that's happening in the college counseling office in terms of various admissions officers visiting us. virtually, obviously. Mr. Murray will tell you more about that later. But now the floor is yours, Mr. Murray, and I look forward to seeing all the panelists. Thank you all for being here.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Mishra. Hello, everybody. Reporting live from Princeton. So before I introduce our wonderful guests, I did want to go through a few housekeeping items for juniors and send a reminder out to seniors that you may have received electronically already. For the juniors, we're excited to share, as Mrs. Mishra alluded to, that we're going to be hosting virtual admissions info sessions. Those will start next week, and we have some of our guests this evening who will be conducting their own information sessions. And we also have representatives from Northeastern, Boston University, and USC, as well as Villanova. So that list continues to populate, and you can access it on your SCORE account. And we ask that you please register and then use your Zoom link in the registration to join at the designated time. Also remember to email your teachers about the letters of recommendation. There was an email that came from your college counselor recently. So if you are unaware of that, please check your inbox. But the deadline to contact your teacher is May 1st. And we hope that you'll pick the right teachers so that you get a really strong letter of recommendation. And lastly, for seniors, another May 1st deadline, we wanted to remind you to submit your enrollment deposit and commit to a college. Some colleges have postponed that deadline, so we ask that you please be mindful of the deadline included in your acceptance letter or updated notifications coming from the college so that you don't miss anything. But the seniors have fantastic results this year. We're hopeful that they'll start in the fall, and hopefully some of our panelists can touch on that, even if it's just speculative. So without further ado, I'd like to ask our panelists to join me on screen. So this evening we have representatives from Dickinson College. We also have folks from Drexel, NYU, and Penn State, and I will let them introduce themselves. And why don't we start with Evelyn?
Oh, hi everyone. I am Evelyn Thimba. I'm so excited to be with you this evening. I have been working with a team at the Hunt School for, oh my gosh, maybe almost 20 years, maybe for a long, long time. But I'm really excited to be with you. I'm the Senior Vice President for Enrollment Management at Drexel, where I have been for 4 years now.
Kristy, why don't you jump in?
Hi everybody, my name is Kristy Materasso and I am at New York University, where I've been for about 16 years, and previous to that worked at a small liberal arts college in New Jersey. I too have been recruiting in New Jersey for pretty much my entire admissions career, and am really excited as always to work with my colleagues here at Hunt.
Great, Stacy?
Hi, good evening. My name is Stacy Kovalycsk. I'm from Penn State University, where I've been for about 13 years now. I am also, of course, a very proud Penn State graduate, so we'd like to throw that in there. And the whole 13 years I've been with Penn State, I've been working with the Hunt School and recruiting in New Jersey, and we have a great relationship. So I'd like to thank Greg and Radha for having me tonight, and I'm excited to talk with all of you.
And Greg?
Hi everyone, my name is Greg Moyer. Thanks so much for having me here tonight. I work at Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I think this would be my 15th year visiting Hun this fall, and so excited to spend some time with you all tonight, and really delighted to see my Hun colleagues and all of my college admissions colleagues from across the country too.
Great, thank you all.
Mr. Murray, I'm going to jump off and then just be one of the participants.
Lovely. All right, so let's get into it. So I just wanted to start with the question that's on everybody's mind. What are colleges and universities doing in response to COVID, and what words of reassurance can you offer our current juniors and seniors about their college process? And feel free to just jump in as you please.
I'll say that this is certainly an uncertain time for everyone, both on the college counseling side, on the college admissions side. We are incredibly empathetic. I think at a small college, community means a lot to us. I know it does at a big college too. And I don't know if it's ever meant more to us in this moment, especially as we think about our seniors in this moment, as we think about our students who are scattered across the country and around the world. Our hearts, who we always go out to our students, I think grew with incredible empathy as we considered all their disparate circumstances and how we could continue to support them academically, how we could continue to support them socially and even financially, I think, as this crisis deepened and continued. I would say one of the things that we have continued to try to tell juniors and seniors in the process is that to breathe, that we are here for you, that we know that this is incredibly difficult for many of you, but the college admissions process, while daunting, in some ways, for us at least, I think as we look into the future, is going to be even more personal, right? We will spend even more time in the coming years, especially for our juniors, getting to know you, understanding who you are, what you value, your individual stories, especially as they kind of play out over the next several months too. So I would say the place I would start this whole conversation and panel is, we know you're concerned, we know that there's uncertainty, but we would tell you to breathe, and we're here with you, and are delighted and excited to be able to provide some answers tonight, and walk you through some of the things we're thinking about.
Great. And I gave you instructions that you were going to introduce your school. Greg, if you want to just give us a little bit of insight into Dickinson, and then we'll skip over and have Evelyn go.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be brief. Although Dickinson's quite old, it's the 16th oldest college in the nation. There's quite a bit to say, but I'll just say that Dickinson's a small liberal arts college in Pennsylvania, where you all are approximately located. At least when you're sitting at Hun, we're about 2.5 hours due west, and there are lots of things that we pride ourselves in. One of the things certainly is that our students come to us from across the country and around the world. Dickinson's really well known as a global institution. About 2 days ago, we announced carbon neutrality the day before Earth Day. And so we are arguably one of the greenest or more sustainable colleges in the nation, and we're incredibly proud of that as well. I would say if there were 3 takeaways, it would be a strong global presence, a really strong sustainable presence, and a deep commitment to the generation of new knowledge. Research is central to everything that we do. There's a capstone project for every student. We work towards that from your first year at Dickinson all the way through all 4 years too. So it's a faculty-student ratio of 1 to 8, 1 to 9, depending on the year, and average class sizes of 14. It would be an experience that would be familiar to you in some ways from what you've had at Hun too. So when you can, come and see us. But until then, as Greg alluded to, there's tons of virtual ways to get to know Dickinson over the next couple of weeks and hopefully not months.
Great, thank you. Evelyn?
Thank you, Greg. As I mentioned, I'm Evelyn, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Drexel, but I want to also talk a little bit about who I am in this process. I have 3 boys, and my youngest is actually a senior right now. So going through this process in a very unconventional way. So I'll be excited to share what's happening in my household and some of the advice that we are milling around here as well. So thanks for having us, Greg and Rada. Just a little bit about Drexel before I share, and maybe I'll talk about Drexel and then punt it to Kristy and Stacy to talk about NYU and Penn State before I share what Drexel is doing in response to the coronavirus. So we are not a very old, not a very young institution. Just over 125 years ago, Anthony J. Drexel, he had a vision to introduce the city of Philadelphia to a radical idea, radical back then, the idea that higher education should be open to folks from all walks of life. And from that radical idea, I would say the Drexel Institute for Art, science and industry was born. And really the only charge that he gave the university is that to be sure that we are offering an education that was good for something, one that was theoretical and one that was practical. And I think we have stayed pretty true to that tenet where as an experiential learning institution, one that has obviously a really strong foundation in the theory, also really expect students to have that very strong practical training before they graduate. So if you hear about Drexel, you'll hear a lot about the cornerstone of the undergraduate experience, which is cooperative education. That is an opportunity for students to really experience full-time classroom teaching and kind of augment it with full-time work experience. So cooperative education at Drexel really allows students to have full-time work experience between 6 months and 18 months, depending on your program of study. But other than that, we are a large comprehensive research university, large because we have almost 25,000 students, 15,000 undergraduate students at Drexel. We are located in West Philadelphia, so about 45 minutes drive from probably where you are now if you are in the Princeton area. Not so much if you are in China or in the UK, but we really urge you to come and visit. We are a residential campus, but we are in the city of Philadelphia. You certainly should be looking at, if you're thinking about Drexel, you're thinking about an urban campus in the center of Philadelphia, minutes away from Center City. But in West Philadelphia, there are about 5 universities just around there. So you would be in a center, in a college town is how we define West Philadelphia. So you'll be, our neighbors are St. Joe's and UPenn and University of the Sciences. Temple is not too far away from us. So really a college-centric town there in Philly. We have 14 different schools and colleges for students to pick from, ranging from the College of Engineering, which is our largest college, and our smallest one is the School of Education. And so students really have an option of being in a big school, and I know that's one of your questions, Greg, being at a really large place, but also having these much smaller academic communities and also micro communities, depending on your areas of interest. So I'll pause there and punt it to Stacy, who can talk a little bit about Penn State, also neighbors for us.
Yes, thank you very much. Is that okay with you, Greg? We'll go in that order.
Sorry.
Thank you, Evelyn.
I'll just stay here.
Hello again, my name is Stacy Kovalycsk. I'm from Penn State University. So Penn State is a large major research institution. We are the State University of Pennsylvania. We are a multi-campus system. So probably when you think about Penn State, you're probably most familiar with our University Park campus, which is our largest campus right in the middle of the state of Pennsylvania. Probably close to 4 hours from the Hun School if you are driving. And that campus is a large campus. We have about 46,000 students at that campus. But as I find as I'm on the road recruiting, what people might not know about Penn State is that we are a multi-campus system. So there are 19 other campuses all over the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and they vary in size from about 500 students up to 5,000 students, and then the University Park campus being the largest campus with 46,000 students. So when we talk about small, medium, large size schools, Penn State's sort of a super size school. So our total enrollment is about 95,000 students. About 77,000 of those are undergraduate students. We have graduate students, we have a medical school and a law school as well. So altogether for undergraduates, there's about 275 academic programs for you to look into. We have about 185 minors. So there's all kinds of things that you can combine and look into as far as your education, whether it's a major and a minor, double majors, whatever it may be. Penn State is also home to one of the world's largest research expenditures. We are really proud of that. This year we broke $975 million in terms of research. So if you're a student and you're looking to get involved with undergraduate research, we certainly have opportunities for you there. Certainly study abroad. We are a Big Ten Division I school, so we have Division I athletics. So if you are looking to compete in the Big Ten, we can offer that. But we also have 1,200 clubs and organizations for you to get involved in. So maybe if you are not a Division I athlete, but a Division I spectator, like I consider myself, there are certainly plenty of sports for you to watch. Or we also have campuses that compete in Division III athletics. And then we also have club and intramural sports, student governments. Penn State is also really proud to say we are home to the world's largest student-run philanthropy. It's affectionately known as THON. Penn State students work all year to help raise money to fight pediatric cancer. It culminates in a 46-hour, no sitting, no sleeping dance marathon. Certainly the highlight of many of our students' experiences at Penn State. We're really proud to say last year our students raised over $10 million entirely on their own. And that is definitely a hallmark of a Penn State education, is getting involved in dance marathon. Other things to know about Penn State, I told you at the beginning, I'm a Penn State alumni. We are also really proud to say that Penn State is home to the world's largest alumni association. We have over 700,000 living Penn Staters all over the world. And we tell you that because we want you to think about the network that you would think about joining if you wanted to join the Penn State family, and where those connections could carry you all over the world and all over the globe. But I'm super excited to be here and to answer any questions that you have tonight. So I guess I will turn it over to Kristy to tell us about NYU, and then we'll circle back to talk about the current state of affairs. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Kristy from New York University, and one of the first things that's important that you know is that while we do have one of our degree granting campuses located in New York City, we actually have two other degree granting campuses around the world. We truly are a global network. So New York, of course, is the oldest and the largest of our campuses. We were founded in 1831, and at our New York campus, we have about 25,000 undergraduate students that are separated into 10 different undergraduate schools and colleges. We also have our degree granting campus in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, which started in the fall of 2010. And then we have a campus in Shanghai, China, which started in the fall of 2013. In addition to our 3 degree granting campuses, we have a wide variety of what we call global academic centers, which is just a fancy way of saying study away sites. We have them in cities such as Florence, Paris, Prague, London, Madrid, Accra, Ghana, just to name a few. And so there really is the opportunity for students to study all over the world at NYU. We're the largest private research institution in the country. And of course, that means that there are a lot of opportunities that come with being an NYU student, but I think that really the 2 hallmarks of an NYU education would be the idea of global education and also the idea of urban education. Global because of our 3 degree granting campuses, because of our study away sites. According to the Institute of International Education, which is an organization that studies college students and kind of their study away culture. According to their research, we send more students abroad than any other university in the country, and we're also the largest host of international students on our campuses. So arguably, even if you come to the New York City campus and never study abroad, you'll have a global experience just because of who will be in the classroom with you. And then, of course, the idea of urban education is incredibly important. It really means that faculty are taking advantage of our location in the city, whether that city is New York, or whether that city is Florence, or Madrid, or Prague, or wherever our campuses might be around the world, to really allow students the opportunity to learn in the classroom, but then to go out into the city and kind of have those experiences where they're, looking at works of art on slides in the classroom and then visiting the museum to see those works of art in person. And that's something that really is true of all of our campuses around the world. And so we want students, as they're thinking about NYU, to really be thinking about global education, but to think about really how does being in a city enhance what you're doing in the classroom. And those are really probably the 2 biggest tenets of what you would receive as an NYU student.
Thank you. I can speak from experience from last summer. I was able to visit the Florence campus, and it is absolutely stunning. So
it's also a little hot.
It's a pretty bad heat wave, but it didn't take away from it, and it meant more gelato.
But right, that's true. And we got to experience some of kind of sample classes that faculty got. So Mr. Murray can talk to you about that if you're interested in NYU.
Yeah. So for those that didn't get to weigh in on sort of words of reassurance about what's happening right now, if you could add some of your opinions and thoughts on that, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll jump in and just give a couple of thoughts. So the way that I would like to answer this question is obviously just the way Greg positioned is what is Drexel doing in response to COVID, and then how can we reassure students across the world who are thinking about the college process. So the first thing that and Mr. Moyer from Dickinson mentioned this is really the way colleges are responding. The first and foremost is keeping our communities safe at Drexel, but also keeping the communities around Drexel safe. So our response was almost immediate in making sure that the students on our campus really had an opportunity to go back home, and in so doing, we helped them with whether it was emergency funds to get them off campus, but also just logistically making sure that students were moving out in a way that was preparing them for a term. We are on quarter system, so we had a full spring term to look forward to once students left the campus. Our on campus, the academic units and administrative units were mobilized to get students the resources they need in the academic setting. So we moved right away to the remote learning platforms. Drexel has been doing online education since for over two or three decades now. So really having those opportunities and advantages to move to remote learning quickly was an advantage for everyone. But then once our students were safe and off campus, and our administrative staff and faculty were off campus, we started working to really see how we could respond to the needs of the city of Philadelphia and the state of Pennsylvania. And so contributing to the course, we have a Center for Functional Fabrics on campus that really, in coordination with the College of Engineering, started pulling together and designing and distributing antiviral fabrics, reusable masks for healthcare workers and essential personnel in Pennsylvania. And so that's something that we're really excited and proud of. But also, as our residence halls opened up, we were able to offer opportunity for medical professions to live on campus. So folks who were either working in St. Christopher's Hospital, which is Drexel's medical center, or UPenn, or the Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania. So really doing our part in the community as community partners. I think one of the things that I want to share with students, and I think Greg really put it well, is on the admission side, what we know is happening. We are going through the exact same unprecedented times that you are. And so we understand that you're not in classrooms, and your learning is different, and the opportunities that you have in that you usually have on your campuses are no longer easily available to you. And so we're really looking at going into fall 2021 with a different mindset, as we're thinking about students going through a time in their life that they had little control over and had to pivot to either remote learning, or so we're going to be truly aware of the fact that many of students across the world will have pass-fail on their transcripts. So that's something that we are going to be taking into consideration as we're reviewing. We're going to talk a little bit later about standardized testing, so I'll skip over that. But students who have in their junior year really going into high gear, whether it's athletics, whether it's the clubs on their campus, going into leadership roles, we are really aware of the fact that that's been stripped away from you, and you don't have the opportunities that other students before you have. And so I'm looking at Greg's sign, keep calm and carry on. And I know it doesn't give you a lot of comfort when we say keep calm, but truly understand that we are also going through unprecedented times, and we know that your life has been turned upside down, and we'll all be adjusting to a new normal once this crisis is over and done with.
Evelyn, I know you can appreciate this, but this sign is more for my staff than it is for students. More inward facing than it is outward facing. So
yeah, totally get it.
So I know that Greg and Evelyn did a great job talking a little bit about the landscape. I might talk maybe a little bit more about some technical things that you can see that we've done for students. We're sort of looking at it, we're taking it in a timeline. So we're working with seniors right now to get you enrolled and get you, off on your education, and we're hoping we can do that. And concurrently, we're starting to do some programming for juniors, but our focus for you that are seniors, we did a few things that I think will be helpful and hopefully put your mind at ease, because just like Greg and Evelyn said, you are our focus. We are empathetic. It's happening to us too. This is a whole new situation for all of us that we are sort of learning together, and we are looking in your best interest, right? We are going to try and work with you to find solutions to whatever is happening, and we're going to find a way to make this work for you. So the first thing that we did, May 1st, I'm sure you know, is the national deadline. We are allowing students to extend until June 1st if they need a little bit more time to make their admissions decision, if they're going to accept our offer or they're going to go elsewhere to school. Students do have to let us know. You have to opt into that. But if you just log on to your portal for us and you say, I need a little bit more time, you have until June 1st. So we have extended the deadline that your offer will be good for. So Penn State, being the State University of Pennsylvania, and we are a land grant institution, and our mission is threefold, but most importantly, we are here to support the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the students, and to further the education for the students in the state of Pennsylvania. And we know that finances are going to be tough right now for everyone. So we've done a few things that we think will be helpful to students who are seniors and thinking about Penn State in the process right now. We are offering a program that we're calling Flexible Start. Penn State's tuition at our campuses is tiered. Our largest campus, the University Park campus, has the most expensive tuition. It's the largest campus. It's the most expensive for us to operate. So the tuition is roughly $10,000 more a year at that campus. So we are offering a flexible start to students if they would like to start at a campus closer to home and be able to do that for 1 year, just to ride this out and see what happens. We think that savings and that tuition savings could be good for families. Primarily our students, not all of them, but being the land grant institution of Pennsylvania, we do have to serve the students in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So we think the way Penn State is set up to work, you are getting a world-class education no matter what campus you start at, no matter what campus you finish at. So we think by offering that flexible start, that option might be appealing to people and to some students who are really concerned. They want to continue their education, but finances are a stressor. And even moving away from home might be a stressor right now too. So you can go to your local campus to where you are, live at home, save the room and board money, and get a tuition discount in that meantime. Those are the first two things that we've done for seniors this year that we think will be helpful, and we're sort of a reaction to everything that's happening right now. For juniors, we are, I know many of you on this webinar are juniors, and we are working through that process right now. The first thing that we've done for you is that we've put a lot of our programming online. We have campus tours. We have all of our student tour guides. They are still working for us, although they're doing it remotely, just like all of us are doing. We are giving tours remotely. We had someone out who's on campus filming it with a video camera, and they're doing voiceover work for you from their homes. So they're doing all those type of things. We are also offering webinars and chats like this just about daily for juniors, so you can can go visit our prospect programs online. We have a website, experience at admissions.psu.edu/experience, and all of our programming is online. We are in the next few weeks going to make some decisions that I see the questions are coming in on our chat about those things like SATs and the application process. We should have that all ironed out in the next few days, so we can, next few weeks. I want to give myself a little bit of a buffer here, the next few weeks, so we can tell you what the timeline in the process will look like for next year.
At NYU, we've really been in the space of thinking about this since January, because we do have a campus in Shanghai, and China was the first country impacted by COVID. We months ago had to start thinking about students leaving campuses and what that would look like. And at first, our students who were at the Shanghai campus were moved to our various other sites around the world. Some came to New York, some came to Florence, some went to other global sites. And then of course, as things spread and became more dire around the whole world, all students were sent home. But then that meant that by the time decisions had to be made in New York in March, we had already been thinking about it for the last 2 months. And so we were prepared to act quickly to get students home, to begin with online instruction. And the same is really true of a lot of the events that we've been doing, just because our Shanghai and Abu Dhabi campuses do have certain processes that in their admissions process require students to be on campus for different events. We had to think quickly about translating all of that into webinars. And so then by the time it got to be April for New York, we had already done countless webinars for the Shanghai and Abu Dhabi campuses. And so we've definitely had some practice with doing this around the world. And I feel good about where we are now. I would echo a lot of what has been said, in particular that we are experiencing this with you. And so we know that flexibility is key, and we are willing to work with students however possible, just to make sure that you can be successful and that we understand that there might be differing policies at your high schools. We understand that online education for high schools right now does not look the same across the board. It isn't equal everywhere. And so we're thinking about that and just wanting to be mindful of that, as students are in many cases already know that they'll be finishing up their academic year online. I also just wanted to mention that I think that it's probably fair to say that colleges and universities hope that we can be in person this fall, but I also think it's too early to make those promises. What we can say for sure at NYU is that students who are starting this fall will be able to make progress towards their degree. That we know for sure. Of course, we don't know precisely what that will look like right now, but we do know that students will absolutely be able to begin and start making degree progress. We just don't know what form that will take at this point. But of course, we'll be announcing that as soon as decisions are made, and letting families know what that looks like. For juniors as well, we want to start engaging with you also. We know that you're getting started, maybe even some sophomores too, starting to think about college. And so at NYU, like pretty much every college and university you can think of, there's so much virtual programming now, online tours that you can take. Before, when we were kind of preparing for the New York campus to close, we recorded our information session on campus. So you can actually just go to our website and you can view the actual information session that we give on campus. And next month, we're going to start giving live information sessions over webinars as well. So students will be able to register for that. We're hoping next month. We're just finalizing the details for that. But colleges have definitely stepped up their game with online programming in the midst of this event. And so I think that you'll find that as you're researching colleges, and not just juniors, seniors who are making your final decisions as well, that there really is a lot of robust programming, and that we are spending time giving students probably even a lot more personal attention than we might normally be able to in April, just because we know that things are so different for you and that you can't be visiting campus for the seniors before you're making your decisions. And so I guess I would say that flexibility, again, is sort of the name of the game, and we are all kind of right there with you and hope that we can all be together in person soon enough.
Great. Thank you, Kristy, and thank you, everybody, for your comforting words. So at this point, I want to sort of turn to what you've all referenced on a few occasions, which is that there's a plethora of virtual options out there. Students have sort of lost that privilege of picking up and flying to a campus, which many of our students would traditionally do. So with that in mind, we talk about fit and having students figure out what school is maybe the best suited for them, or one where they can make things work and they can really capitalize on the opportunities available. How do you suggest that students navigate that without the ability to visit? And why don't we start with Greg?
Thanks, Greg. I am enjoying, as everybody thanks you, Greg, that it feels like they're thanking me. So I have enjoyed that throughout the panel. It's a great question. As Kristy just said, there's a ton of programming out there. We're a small college. I did count, though. Our board report is due tomorrow, and so far this month we've done 52 virtual sessions, and so it feels like a lot, considering that, as Kristy suggested, was not how we were putting content out into the world, at least until recently. And so colleges really did attempt to pivot and very quickly to what we knew or anticipated juniors and seniors would really want. I would say, I think back to a student I worked with a few years ago, and he was an international student from India. His name was Ashir, and he was somewhat in a similar position. He knew that he wasn't, at least in his case, going to be able to visit campuses before he had to make his decision. So he applied to college, and he was admitted to a variety of colleges and whittled his list down to about 8. And that was what he had to work with at the time. And one of the things that he did, and this might not be true for every single college, but it was really true for us. It worked for Dickinson. And so maybe this is a great small college example, perhaps. And he reached out to all the faculty in the department he was interested in. He was really interested in the sciences. And one of the things that he was trying to suss out in his process was research. Stacy mentioned Penn State's research expenditure. I think it was $975 million, which is just an astronomical amount. I think Dickinson had $976 million last year. So right there, I'm just kidding. That's not true. And so we were. So one of the things that he really wanted to understand, and this isn't, I think in some ways it was a great way to approach it, especially from a distance, was by the time he was a sophomore at Dickinson, he wanted to be a researcher, but he wanted to be a co-researcher in a lab. And that was really different, right? That was a nuanced difference for him. It wasn't, I just want access to research. I want, great labs or really good faculty. It was deeper than that for him. How can I build a relationship with faculty? How can I have meaningful experiences as an undergrad? And how can I be part of the conversation? And one of the things that he did, again, from a distance, was contact a wide variety of faculty and strike up a dialogue. Again, that might not be possible at every single college out there, but at a small college with a faculty-student ratio of 8:1, our faculty were really eager to talk to him. They wanted to tell him, this is what we do, this is how your process would look, this is how we'll get you into medical school, this is how this will roll out for you as a student. And ultimately, I'm telling the story because he chose Dickinson, but his process was almost entirely virtual, right? And it was really personal. It was very hands-on. He definitely did all the things that people have mentioned, right? He took the U-Visit tour, and he was in touch with us, and place and space, head and heart play a huge role in this. And I think he did due diligence with that as well. But the deciding factor was going to the heart of, for him, what was most important. He was in his heart, he was an academician, and he knew he had to talk to faculty. And he was able to create a system for himself that to add depth to that. Faculty responded with this answer, and then somebody added this, and somebody added this, and eventually, whittled it down to a small number of colleges where he felt like, with full confidence, that at least for him, he'd be able to do all the things he wanted to do.
Stacy, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, so I would say, I think that you are in a unique situation, those of you that are juniors, that you might have a chance at a large school like Penn State to have this experience be more personal than it may have been in the past. We are connecting with people in ways right now that I have never seen us do before. So I think that there are some things that could be a real advantage to you in the process right now. And us getting to know you a little bit better, we have the ability and the time to do this right now because we are all so focused on working remotely. We are not traveling as we usually are. I mean, it's a lovely time of the year. We are usually out at college fairs. We would be at your school today, you know, in our normal time. And, you know, if you think about the things that our staff spends, the amount of time traveling that they spend, they're not doing that anymore. So we have, you know, counselors that are really ready to get to know you as students and really want to help you work through the admissions process. We are doing more programming now than we have ever done, and we are doing it in a more, I would say, almost one-on-one format. And for a school like Penn State to say that and to offer that right now, that's unprecedented for us. We have never done one-on-one virtual appointments before. We are offering that right now. We are holding webinars like this, like I said, twice a day right now, and that is not the amount of programming that we have done in the past. We used to do large programming on campus for 2,500 students at a time. That's our usual visit day, and we are not doing that right now. We're holding programs just with 50 students, and we are talking to them. There might be 10 admissions counselors on a program for 50 students. And that's going to give you the opportunity to make this process a little bit more one-on-one than it's ever been with a school my size. And I would also say, you know, in terms of making your, right, so I have given the advice a million times in my life that you're never going to know if a school is the right fit until you step onto the campus and you can see yourself there, right? And that is not the exact advice that I can give right now, but I am very used to giving that advice. But what I would also say is, you know, I think as you're working with these schools, and you're reaching out and you're going to our virtual programming and you are connecting with us, you've got to see what feels right to you, but who's also meeting your needs. Do you have additional questions that you didn't get answered via our webinar? Do you have a counselor on the other end, you know, of this desk who's willing to say, hey, I'd love to talk with you offline about that. Let's set up a time to chat, or let's set up a time to go one-on-one. And I think that you will find more willingness right now to have those needs met than we've ever done before. So I think that that you are, it's, I know this is really hard. I know this is uncharted water, but I think that this could be very advantageous to you juniors in the admissions process right now.
Yes, I'll add that I've done more webinars and learned more about colleges in the past month than I think I have ever before. There's just so much content out there in a way that it's never been seen before. So like you were saying, Stacy, there's just a lot of opportunity and sort of potential to be tapped into. Kristy, would you like to jump in?
Sure. A lot of what Greg said, I was prepared to say, that you really can get the same information that you're looking for just in this virtual setting. One of my colleagues just put a blog post up on our website recently, and he talks about the fact that he started college in 2012 and he couldn't visit campuses because he was from Australia. And so he wasn't visiting schools no matter what. And so in this time when everyone really has to make decisions without a campus visit, he was talking a lot about how that was just what he had to do. And so he also was getting in touch with faculty members, getting in touch with, you know, maybe if he couldn't find the faculty member specifically online or wasn't sure exactly which person to reach out to in other offices, just start with the admissions office. We can connect you with whoever you want. You know, do you want to talk to a faculty member in a certain department? Do you have questions about research? You know, do you just have questions about certain classes? If we can't answer that for you, we can absolutely connect you with the departments that can. Are you interested in what the daily life of a student in a specific major would be? we can help you with that as well. You know, just because you're not on a tour or on campus chatting with one of our student ambassadors, you can still connect with the admissions office. We can connect you with our student ambassadors who are also still working for us during this time just at home. They can definitely get your questions answered. On a lot of colleges' social media, they're doing student takeovers where you can see kind of a day in the life or an Ask Me Anything for some of the students who work in our offices. So I really would just agree with that it's true that you can't set foot on campus right now. But really the crux of what you're looking for, the information that you need, whether it's about academics or student life or study abroad or whatever that might be, that's still available to you. And if you're not quite sure how to access it, just start with admissions and we're happy to connect you with really any resources that you might need on campus.
Evelyn, have they captured everything, or do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
They really have captured everything. I'll just make two really quick points. The first one is focus on the silver lining. Colleges have never had to really tell their entire story virtually as we are telling it now. And so you have more information at your fingertips, as everybody has mentioned, than anybody before you. And I know that many students have the opportunity to visit campuses and make that decision to apply or attend when they get to campus, but many don't. Many actually apply sight unseen and with a lot less information than you have available to you right now. And then the second point is more tactical. And I'm saying this because I'm having to do it in my house with my son, is because there's so much information out there from all the different schools. It's easy, it's tempting to surf the web and jump from school website to website. I would say take some time, say today, on Friday, I'm going to take 3 hours, and just as you would schedule a college tour when you had to go to the campus, say I'm going to take that time and schedule all my appointments at College X. And that will be the day I actually learn more about Dickinson College. And so really manage your time in a traditional way, even though you're actually doing it virtually, so that if you take a full day to go visit NYU, take a full day and schedule your appointments, your virtual appointments with NYU admissions, take the campus tour, schedule a meeting with faculty, with a student, and really go through it that way. I think it's going to be helpful as you're going through, if you organize your time as though you were actually going to that specific campus.
Great, thank you, Evelyn. I think that's wonderful advice to just segment your time and really immerse yourself. So I want to introduce a question from the audience they've been patiently waiting for this, but hopefully we can answer this quickly. Panelists, do you think that the deadlines for fall applications will be postponed, or will we stick to the traditional November 1 plan? Why don't we go Stacy, Greg, Evelyn, and then Kristy.
Okay, I want to pull out my crystal ball. And I wish there was a great answer for that. So as of today, we are working through those issues right now. There are conversations daily to be able to get you an answer before our application opens for the year. And that's our guarantee that for those of you that are seniors, our application becomes available August 1st of this summer. So the application will be available and we will have all of the answers to all of these questions well before that, and we will communicate it to you. So let me throw that out there first. And then I will also say for us, our current plan is the same that it's always been, with November 1st as our early action. And then we accept rolling applications for the rest of the year after that on a space by space basis. I wish I could tell you something more than that, but that's where we are right now.
This is where the age-old admissions answer, it depends, comes into play, and we'll wait to see when people can even leave their houses before we're able to develop contingency plans for the next step.
Yeah, I think that there's a good possibility it could change.
Yeah, I think that Stacy's right. I think that, I mean, we've already heard talk of colleges considering pushing their deadlines back a bit, right now. And again, I think as Stacy suggests, there's some trepidation about making, large sweeping decisions at this point. But if we move it 15 days, what would that look like? And would that do anything for families? If we moved it a month, what would that look like? And would it actually be meaningful for families? I think also what Stacy said, I think you'll see some of that. We're already seeing it right now. Colleges leaving their applications open. So I think you'll actually see maybe more of that. Perhaps colleges will stick with their traditional deadlines, but say we'll accept, applications through a longer period of time than they traditionally would have done too. Dickinson's application closed, the day that our last deadline was, and we actually reopened it. So we're ahead of last year, but we heard from honestly a lot of Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New Jersey families that didn't want to go as far away as perhaps they had, considered. And that probably will be a small pool for us. That's our expectation, because I think that's probably the number of seats we'll have. But I think you'll see that coming in the year ahead too.
My heart just started beating faster thinking about the procrastinators who heard these will be waived.
Ignore that message then, right? Yeah, there's a hard and fast deadline. The process will be over by December.
Let's aim for the best, and we'll aim for the regular deadlines. Evelyn?
Yeah, I mean, I think Stacy really covered it. It will really depend, but my advice to you is start pulling together your application and your portfolio and putting your best foot forward now in anticipation of just continuing with the normal admissions process. I think that that question will probably come up more for students who are applying to schools that have been less flexible with requirements. So maybe if you really applying to a school and have to take a standardized test, that will come in play. But my gut is saying that we on the college side are going to be so flexible with how we are reviewing candidates and the information that you're sharing with us. And you have the time, you'll have the time in the summer to really put your best foot forward. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are going through the exact same thing that you're going through, and we understand the limitations that you have and the challenges that you're going through. And so, I would say, instead of focusing on, can we extend the deadline into April and May of 2021, how about you just focus on completing your year really strongly, getting whatever standardized testing you can under your belt if you can. We know that at least for June's SATs are canceled. Not many students will have as many opportunities as they would have had under a previous life, pre-COVID life. But put your things together, put your affairs in order, and try to, go through your senior year as you would normally do, and unless there are schools that you're looking at that really have requirements that you haven't been able to fulfill. But bottom line is everybody's going to be flexible.
Kristy, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
I would agree with that, and I would only just say to Evelyn's point about just kind of continuing on the normal schedule, I think that's a great plan, because even if schools do change their deadlines, remember, you can apply before then. The deadline isn't the day that you have to submit your application, and in fact, there's certainly a lot to be said for just getting your information in and kind of being done and just letting the process kind of go from there. So I completely agree. Just, it's just too early. Again, there are a lot of things that are just too soon for us to say, make decisions on, but I think it is a good idea to just kind of keep going, to keep that kind of senior year schedule as it would be with, when you would be making your list and things like that, and just go along with that. But of course, colleges, if decisions are made, if changes are made to the process, we'll of course be in touch with prospective students to let them know.
Great, thank you. And I'll just add that the seniors will scoff at this because they didn't get to visit in the spring, but for the juniors, you don't have to see a campus before you apply, and you do have the ability to visit a little bit later. So for juniors, you have until May 1st of 2021 to see these campuses, assuming nothing else comes up. But I just want you to sort of reframe the thinking and not assume that you have to visit every place by November in order to apply. So the question that I think is on a lot of people's minds and is getting captured by the media to stir up a lot of interest is testing. Fairtest.org has long been a go-to for schools that are test optional. They've advocated for it strongly. And in recent weeks, we've seen a lot of schools jump on that list and decide to go test optional for 2021. And some are saying that they're going to do it for 2, 3, 4-year pilots. Could you just quickly give me a sense of what your school is going to be doing and any changes that you anticipate as a result of that? Feel free to jump in as you.
I can go really quickly. We have not made a final decision, but you know, you might be the first ones to hear it from us that it is very likely that we will be test optional for fall 2021. We've you know, for the last 5 years we've been test flexible, so students had different options of standardized tests to provide and be evaluated on. And you know, as we're going into 2021, I think one of the things that we know for a fact is that many students either will not have an opportunity to take the test before the November deadline, or will not have an opportunity to, like their former peers, to take it several times and kind of put their best foot forward. So I think that, yeah, at Drexel, we are more likely than not being test optional this coming fall.
Great. And I'll also just add, if anybody could maybe speak to TOEFL and what's happening with AP exams, although I think by and large, from what I've seen, most colleges are accepting them. Even though they've shortened them, they're going to stick with the same scoring and sort of credit awarding systems.
That's the case for us. We're going to be taking AP scores. For the TOEFL, we are expanding the options. We're not going to waive you know, scores for English language proficiency. So students right now can take the self test, the TOEFL self test. They can submit Duolingo, and IELTS is also coming out with a self test. I don't know if they've already come out with that already, but we're really flexible with the English language proficiency test.
Great.
I would say we were really pleased that we just got approval from our faculty senate to take the AP exams, just as we always have in AP scores. We were hoping that that would be the answer, but really we had to get the answer from the faculty to make sure that they would approve the credit, and they have. So we are able to accept AP tests the same way as always. We are also accepting Duolingo if that's an option. As far as the testing, we have not made a decision yet. We are a school that has always used standardized testing in our admissions process. So this would be like a monumental change for us. And we are studying it on a daily basis to see really what our process would look like without testing. So I am not prepared at this point to say that that is going to happen for us, but I will tell you that it is a constant conversation, and it is being looked into deeply for us right now. I will say that in lieu of going test optional, so I see this going like two ways, that if we continued to require testing, which I think is more likely, that would be something that I could see our deadline getting extended to give students more time to take another SAT or ACT, whatever it may be. But I don't want you to quote me on any of those things, because we are currently working through them all right now. And again, I promise we will have the decisions in the coming weeks.
At NYU, at this point, it is still our plan to require testing for the fall. for the past several years, we actually have been test optional for our artistic programs. So any program at NYU that requires an audition or portfolio already are test optional programs. So that of course will not change. But for the academic programs at NYU that do not have that artistic component, it is our plan at this point to still require testing. We also have what we refer to as a test flexible policy. So that means that students can take the SAT reasoning test or the ACT or 3 subject tests or 3 AP exam scores. So there are a lot of options for students, but at this point it is still our plan to require testing.
And to round it out very quickly for Dickinson, we are test optional. We've been test optional for 25 years. We were the first 3 colleges to do it, Bates, Bowdoin, and Dickinson. And so it's a policy that we're comfortable with, and it works for us. I will say that we are test optional for domestic students, and we are considering going test optional for international students. Unlike Stacy, I'm very comfortable with speculating wildly. And so I am happy to tell you that is something that we're actively discussing. I know she said the same thing too, that we're actively discussing it for international students. And so if we do go test optional for international students, which is, I would say, a distinct possibility for this year. A potential plan is that we will interview every single one of our international students. And so we, again, it's not a unique position, but it certainly puts Dickinson in a special position because we are smaller and we can interview everybody. That I can't even imagine NYU taking on a task like that, or Drexel or Penn State or anybody, but we're in a special position to be able to interview every single one of our international students. It will still be a heavy lift. It's about 1,500 students, but that's the plan for people that'll be admitted to Dickinson too.
Great, thank you. And just for general information for everybody out there, the SAT announced today that they're adding a September sitting, and they were already offering the August and the October. And I recently participated in a webinar with the Vice President of College Board, who said that for every test that we lose on this end, they are going to try to add something on the back end to make up for it. And so we just have to wait and see what that looks like for them before we can all formulate our plans, and the colleges and universities can figure out how they're going to respond to that. So moving on to our next question, in my daily Zooms that I've been doing, I recently got to participate in a webinar with Rick Clark, who's the director of admissions at Georgia Tech. And he jokingly said that he anticipated every college essay would be about COVID. And I have to believe that there's some truth to that because it has been such a monumental event in students' lives. But he also said that it's a reasonable expectation and that they're preparing themselves to be empathetic to that. And so I'm just wondering if you could share your thoughts on how you think essays can be best written, and if this really changes anything at all, because we've sort of always seen some similar topics when we read those essays. Stacy, it's been a while since we've heard from you.
So I will say I am probably the only person on this panel who has a terrible answer to this question. Essays are not used in Penn State's undergraduate admissions application process. We just ask for a personal statement, and it's an optional part of your essay where we ask, or optional part of your application where we ask you to tell us a little bit more about yourself. For us, the only time that an essay would be required is if you are applying into our Schreier Honors College. And in which case, your essay, we are truly looking for it to be more about you and your impact and to tell us more about yourself. And if this is what you want to tell us about, as long as it's well written and tells us something that we can't see on your transcript or through your testing, I think that would be okay. I think that it needs to add value to your application. So if you are going to write about this, I would encourage you to write it in a way that we learn something new about you.
I would say too, Greg, that first of all, I think to what Stacy just said, I don't think for the most part, the topic should never be the conceit, right? That it should be the student, it should be the learning moment, it should be the value added, it should be, and so I could absolutely, I agree with Rick, I know him well, I think that you could see that COVID being a vehicle for some students. But as Stacy suggested, that you move past that or move through that to deliver a larger point about who you are, what you value, or what you bring to the table too. The College Board is actively discussing adding it as a separate question. So there could be an opportunity for not the College Board, the Common App. So I would say that I think it could be an opportunity regardless, right, for both college counselors, Greg, to add your thoughts about the impact of this moment on students' lives. So everybody might be able to write about this if you were feeling left out, Greg. And then students, I think, separate from their, from their personal statement to Penn State or their Dickinson essay or their Common App essay, might be able to offer this up as context. And somebody asked a question about, grades at Hun still being graded versus students that are getting a pass-fail or things like that. And I think that we might see that regardless through the Common App as a contextualized separate source for every single student that might want to provide it to.
Evelyn?
Not very much to add there. I mean, the reality for everybody is there was your life pre-COVID and there'll be your life post-COVID. And for students who are juniors right now, I mean, this is a moment that's really defining an important time in your life where the transition from high school to college is a big moment. And there'll be a lot of students who are really tempted to talk about this particular event. I think, I don't know about you, my life is not very interesting right now. And so I don't know if you'll have a lot to talk about during this time, but certainly, think about, I think part of what I agree completely with what Greg said, is kind of the learning that you've gone through this process in this time. I think we're all expecting essays about coronavirus and COVID and that time, but really it should be about you and ultimately it's telling us a little bit more about you than we are learning from the people who are telling us about you, but also from just your application, then go for it, because I know we all know how monumental this time will be. I was laughing the other day with my team and saying, for years we'll be talking about in 2020 coronavirus, and we don't expect you to ignore this time of your life.
So Kristy's not jumping in unless
I was going to say it's all been said. Those were all great answers, and I would agree. Yeah.
So I want to take a moment to thank everybody who's still with us. We've been going for a little over an hour, and we've only lost about 10 participants. So pat yourselves on the back for the endurance run that you have gone through here. We have about 15 minutes left, so I want to be cognizant of that and address the last few questions here, and just so our panelists know our time frame as well. So Evelyn, you mentioned a question that I was going to ask, and here it is. A lot of big universities promote themselves as this place full of resources, but then they followed up quickly with, but we offer small school opportunities. And when you go to visit a smaller campus or virtually visit, they say that they are a really intimate place where you're not just a number, and then they quickly turn and say, but we have all these big, wonderful resources. And so as students are going from campus to campus or hearing these info sessions, how do they assess that and know what actually is the right place for them if all schools are saying they're everything to everyone? And I know this is a terrible and mean question for you all, but I wanted to ask it anyways.
It's a tough question, so I'll let Kristy go first.
Oh, you're so right. I think about at NYU about how we talk about how we're the largest private research institution. We have all these incredible opportunities, but at the same time, our average class size is under 30 students. So you're so correct. I guess I would say to really think about kind of what you want to experience within the student body, might be a good way to think about it. I have worked at NYU for a long time and I love working there. I didn't go to NYU. I went to a small liberal arts college. And for me, I loved just walking down the path every day. And I liked kind of seeing the same people when I would, walk from my residence hall to class. I liked seeing the same people in the library. I liked that I could very easily identify everyone who was a member of my community, even if I didn't quite know everyone's names, because there were about 400 students or so in our class. That was okay. I still knew who they were. I knew that they were part of the community, and I liked that. I liked kind of that small feeling in the dining hall. You kind of see everyone, say, hey, wave to them. And not that that doesn't happen at NYU, but I mean, even as an administrator, when I'm just kind of walking around campus, there are thousands of members of our community. I can't possibly know them all. A lot of times people will say to me, oh, you work at NYU, do you know this other administrator, or do you know this faculty member? No, I have no idea who they are, because we're such a huge place. And so that might be one way to think about it, because there are a lot of opportunities that you'll find at any school. Even at a big place, you'll find some classes that are smaller. Even at a small place, you'll probably find some classes that are bigger. So to really think about kind of how you want to build your community and how you want to maybe find your place in the student body might be a good place to start.
I would say that people should, especially during this time, Evelyn said it earlier, I mean, thinking about being really open-minded about this process and casting a wide net. Greg mentioned he's been on, I think, 150 Zooms already in the last week and a half. And so, Evelyn pointed out rightly that there's probably a balance to be struck there in terms of pacing and being thoughtful about, how much time you give to this. But, and as everybody has indicated, if you're interested in engineering, you've got a world-class engineering school in Penn State, right, sitting right next to me, and others on this panel that offer phenomenal sciences and engineering. But if you're interested in a small intermittent environment with engineering, you can certainly, without getting on a plane and flying across the country, go visit Harvey Mudd, right? And maybe that wouldn't have felt as accessible to you because it was less traditional, right, to do it virtually, or maybe Harvey Mudd didn't have virtual sessions that you could have done, but now you can. And Harvey Mudd is arguably the best small engineering program in the world. And so I think there's a real opportunity, perhaps, as Kristy said, to kind of cast a wide net and experiment a bit during this time. I like this, I don't like this. Certainly at this moment, you can't step foot on our campuses and see and feel some of these things, but you can do other things, as everyone has said, that this moment gives you some opportunity and some flexibility that perhaps it wouldn't have before, too.
Thank you. So I'm going to sort of keep us rolling with the questions here. I had a question in the Q&A chat, and Greg just started to touch on this, but a parent is asking, how do students pace themselves leading up to the application? And I think I can say from the college counseling side, the easy answer is read our emails from the college counseling office. We try to set this process up in a way that does break it down so that you can chip it away at it over time. We will have an application workshop. We're having these info sessions coming up at the end of the summer. There's an essay workshop. And then throughout the fall, we have students continuing to work with us individually on their personal statements and their supplemental essays. And so I think research is sort of the critical component at this point, and historically it would have been testing. Panelists, can I get a thumbs up if you all agree? Anything else to add, anybody?
So I would add that right now we know that juniors especially, you guys are having, your school life got turned upside down, right? So you'd normally be in the classroom every day, you're doing school online. I think that making sure that you're focused on that right now primarily is probably a good place to not lose focus. So, finish out this year strong would probably be my best advice. So that's something you can do immediately today, right? Work through online learning, get through those challenges, and make sure you finish out this year strong. We know that some schools are going to be pass-fail. We know all of those things are going to happen. Some of your grades might not be A's or B's. They might be passes, whatever they may be. But I think that doing the very best work you can right now to stay in it is something you can do immediately. And then, your research for the schools that you're looking into after that.
Thank you. And for those that are curious about how to convey this information about what does our grading look like, how can I articulate these changes to the college, I just want to reassure families that HUN does send a school profile to the institutions, and we have already been discussing how to articulate that to the universities so that they have a sense of what grading looks like, how we've been conducting our classes, to ensure them that our students are fully prepared to make that jump to their institutions and be ready to hit the ground running. So another question that I want to ask is a little bit, it's for the parents really. What can parents be doing right now to support their children? Their students have a lot on their plate. There's this pressure sort of bearing down and this feeling that you have to be doing something right now. What can you say to maybe address the parents in the audience? Evelyn, do you want to go?
Yeah, I can go. I mean, I think the same thing you would be doing under normal circumstances. Keep them encouraged, keep them motivated. I think in my house, I know it's been really difficult to keep my son motivated. He's a senior, so there's that. But he still has APs coming up and so forth. So just keep them motivated, understanding that they still have to continue on the same schedule that they've been going throughout the year, and then work with them as they're thinking about looking at different schools. I think it will be really tempting because all the tours, all the information sessions are virtual. It will be very, very tempting to say, okay, you can go learn about Drexel on your laptop or on your phone. Do it together as a family like you would if you were doing a traditional college tour, so that they're missing out on a really fundamental piece of the college journey, and trying to keep it as traditional as you can, and keeping you as involved as you can is also a good thing. But also, remember that it is their process. They really need to take the lead on it. So you'll be receiving information from the college counseling office at the HUN school, just as your students will be, but they really need to own it. It's not for you now to just kind of take the reins and go with it as you're seeing them kind of lose motivation and encouragement. It's a really tough time, I know, but they need to stay the course.
Great, thank you. And for those that joined late, Evelyn does have some seniors in her house, so she's speaking from direct experience.
I am.
Anybody else like to weigh in, or feel like that was appropriately answered? Okay. So we do have a fair amount of international students, and I want to just do a quick question about that before we move on to closing out this session. Could you just give a little bit of insight into what your institutions are talking about related to international students, what your anticipation might be about applications and enrollments of those students?
I will say, I can't predict what applications or enrollment really will look like for NYU with international students. I will say, though, that for international students who are planning to join us this fall, we have an entire office dedicated to helping you with your I-20, with your visa, even under normal circumstances. And so we are prepared. Our Office of Global Services is prepared to provide you the support that you need. Of course, there are a lot of issues related to visas that are not under our control. And so depending on what happens, if our international students, need to start in a virtual learning environment and come to campus later, we're prepared for that too. It's not even really just international students. There might be students from the United States who are supposed to maybe begin their academic career at our campus in Madrid or at our campus in London. And so we have a wide variety of students who potentially could be impacted because they're starting all over the globe. And we're prepared to work with students and their visa issues to, of course, start virtually if that's what needs to happen for that particular population. Of course, we don't know what the population as a whole will be doing. There's no decisions made yet for fall. But if we need to have that support for students who can't get a visa to be in whatever country they're starting with, then of course we'll assist them with, again, making sure that they're making academic progress, even if they can't physically be in person at their campus.
One of the things that we did, and Kristy mentioned too, Dickinson has it runs its own study abroad programs as well, and so we have a program in Beijing, and similar to NYU, we had to think about this, and obviously we were thinking about this in December and in January, and so then we built a spring program for Dickinson, so that's not normal for us. Again, we're a very traditional small liberal arts college, and so we don't have a spring term, but we built one for this year. To accommodate exactly what Kristy just mentioned, that if there are visa issues, and we're seeing them obviously right now, some of it is anecdotal, but we are hearing from our students in China and in Vietnam that embassies aren't granting visas or aren't reviewing visas right now. And so that obviously, if it continues to play out that way, will have an impact on how students enroll and when they enroll. So we've created a deferral program where domestic and international students can defer their enrollment to the spring semester, which that would be an entirely new experience for us at a small college, but we're prepared, obviously, as Evelyn kept saying and others kept saying, to be flexible, right? To create opportunity for families, to be creative in this time. And that's certainly one of the most exciting, and if there is a silver lining, and I can't remember who said look for the silver lining, but that's been one of the most certainly promising and uplifting things about this experience is the creativity that's come out of it, right? And the warmth and the nimbleness. And so again, right now we're in it, and it's hard to see some of that, but I think we will see some really positive outcomes in the long run to our processes, how closely we work with each other. You heard Stacy, how closely Penn State is working with every single one of their students. And those are really unforeseen, but right now in the moment, really warm responses to what's happening. And I think you'll see that all throughout the fall, summer and fall too.
Thank you. So we have just a few minutes left, and you know how we always like to end these with your final words of wisdom, just a quick one-liner or just anything, any takeaway that we can offer families at this time. Let's start with Stacy, and then we'll go to Greg, and then he can pick who's going to go next.
Sure. I would encourage you all to continue to be kind. I think it's really important to be kind in this process. Be kind to yourselves, right? This is a whole new world that we are all living in. Be kind to your parents. Parents, be kind to your children. You know, we are families. We are making these decisions together and going through this process because we love one another. This might be the first time your son or daughter is moving out of the house next year, whatever it may be. I know there's stress in that. So I think it's really important to be kind as a family to one another. Be kind to all of us. This is new for us too. We wish we had better answers for you. We're trying to get answers for you as quickly as possible, and we're trying, really truly believe us, we are trying in your best interest to get you the best answers and to have the best solutions with everybody's health and safety in mind. So I think if we can all just remember to be kind in this process, I think we'll all come out of it okay on the other end.
Perhaps striking a similar chord or a drum that we've been consistently beating is that we are all human, and certainly this is a uniquely human experience for us now. My wife is an AP English teacher for juniors, and so we are living the circle of life in our house every single day, and really feeling it with you. And I think at its core, the admissions process, you know, Evelyn said pre-COVID, right? In COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID, the admissions process has always been at its core a human process where students have the opportunity to tell their stories that are different and disparate and sometimes really very complex. That will remain the case, right, in this moment in time. And we on the other side of the desk Whether you're a senior right now or a junior in this process, we are right there with you, and we care about you, and we care about you in this process. We remain at its core human, and this process remains really human. The other thing I would say is just to continue to use your resources. Hun is an amazing school. They were amazing school pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID, right? And you have a phenomenal college counseling office, and perhaps only better in this moment, because everybody has to be more nimble. So use those resources to shepherd you through what can feel like an overwhelming and really complicated moment. Sorry, was supposed to pick someone. My only job. Kristy, how about you?
Thanks, Greg. I echo everything that's been said, and I would also just say it will work out. You will end up at a place that is good and right for you. It always does. I always like to tell the story of my niece who graduated from college last May. And she has a sister who's a junior in college now, who's obviously having a hard time. She's an art major, and she's having a tough time sitting in, like 4-hour Zoom art classes. So they're having different experiences, of course. But my niece who graduated from college last year, she applied to college despite the fact that I am an admissions counselor and my husband is a college counselor, could not get her to file applications before December 31st, and a lot of schools have January 1st deadline. So just couldn't get her to be on the ball with that. But the school that was throughout her entire search process, the school that was her first choice, she ended up being waitlisted there, and just, kind of languished on the wait list, was never coming off of the wait list. And so she, I would say with reluctance, enrolled at her second choice institution. And I can't think of now looking back, I can't think of a better match. I can't think of a student who was more suited for the school and vice versa. She studied abroad. She, just took advantage of every resource. She was her student body president. She just had such a great experience because she jumped in and, took advantage of all of the opportunities, even though at first she wasn't, super thrilled about it. And in the end, it really worked out. And, that will happen for you too. You will end up at a place that is good and that is right for you, as long as you really go in with an open mind and really take advantage and, jump into the community.
All right, I'll be quick because we are past time. I couldn't echo Stacy's point more than she did. I think that this is a time in our lives that obviously uncharted waters, unprecedented times, and nobody can take this experience away from you except yourself. You can choose to really jump in and take advantage of what is happening. Be kind to each other, but also think about how you want to grow in this process. Is there a skill that you thought you'd never had time to pick up and now you can? Maybe it's you want to, start coding, or you want to learn a language, or you want to start knitting, or you just want to be walking more. Just think about something that you can do to say, okay, during COVID-19 time, this is what I did to stay sane. I think it will be also really important for you to stay the course. It's not time for you to let off. Suddenly, many schools are going past fail, and maybe Han is going to. And so, we won't see an A versus a C, and, a pass is what a pass is. But you want to make sure that you have a solid foundation, either going into your senior year of high school, so you're not, you're not kind of lacking the foundational skills for the next courses you're going into. Or if you're a senior now, you don't want to be at a point where going into college next fall, you're lacking some foundational skills, whether it's in calculus or writing or whatever it is you're doing. So stay the course academically and personally as well. Just stay safe and take care of each other. Take care of your parents. They need encouragement too.
Great. Thank you for that, Evelyn. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight, for sharing all of your wisdom and years of experience. And I'll end just by saying to the students and the families, please remember that your college counselors and everybody at HUN is here for you. We as college counselors are readily accessible if you'd like to schedule a meeting. I'm sure new questions have emerged as a result of tonight, or maybe a new fire has been lit to motivate you. So please reach out to your counselor via email or their preferred method of scheduling a meeting. And for those questions that we weren't able to address live, rest assured that your counselor will have some form of a representative's voice on that to share with you if you are able to schedule a meeting when you do that. So thank you, everybody, and be safe and be well. Have a good night.
Thank you, Greg.